Hi, and welcome to the tutorial for building the Smart Bedside Clock. Today I'll take you through the steps of soldering all the connections and putting them into the clock so it can work. So that's one harness done, and the different parts are for your reference. They're about 3 centimeters long, and the other part is around 8.5 centimeters long. And these helping hands are really nice from Omnifixo. It's a Swedish guy who sells them. Just got mine. Here we go. So let's join the power lines to the amplifier board. This is the amplifier board. Power goes here, ground goes there, speaker goes here on these two. And the reason why I am not putting these cables through the holes, if they're sticking out on the back, they will not fit when in the actual clock wall where I've put recesses for them. So that's why I'm doing it like this. So the next step would be to solder the speaker to the amplifier board. We don't need this much wire, so I'm thinking like 140 millimeters would be fine, or 5.5 inches if you're in the US. So let's cut it here, like so. So let's go ahead and solder the connection to the amplifier board. There we go, and I cut this a little bit short, so I'll have to force it. So that's the speaker and the amplifier board. Okay, so let's put some signaling wiring on the amplifier board. So for this I'll have yellow and green and brown, I guess. So let's just find those colors. These should be about the same length as the power harness, because it's going to the same board. So something like this, and we'll just cut them there. Here we go. So let's start from the third one. To position it correctly, and then just add some heat to it. And then the last one is the brown one. Don't want it to stick out from the side, because this is a press fit and the actual wings press in from here. And it's time to solder the rotary encoder. This needs 2 grounds, one for the rotary encoder and one for the button function in the rotary encoder. We'll need to make another harness for the ground. There we go. A bit big, but it'll work. So let's start with the bottom one. I think I'll just put some solder on it first. It's always easier that way. And then add the connection. And let's do the same with the middle leg here. There we go. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, not the best ones, but good enough. There is no actual stress on these pins, so it'll be fine like this. Okay. Let's go back to the position that I had before so you can follow along in a consistent way. And now we're adding the green, the blue, and the brown wire. I've cut these to the length of around 9 centimeters or 90 millimeters, and that's around just a tad, a bit longer than 3.5 inches. I find that the extra cabling inside the clock, no one sees that anyway, so it's nice to not have too short cables because that'll be making it harder to fit it all. Okay, so let's do the same procedure again. Pre-tin the leg a little bit and then tin the wire a little bit. Add some heat. Perfect. Add some solder to it. Just slide it over there and solder it. And for these, I'll actually just put some heat shrink on. So I'll put them on like that, and we'll just add some heat. Yep, that'll do it. And then the last cable is the blue wire for the button. Position it correctly and then just add some heat. Just for good measure, I'll put some heat shrink there as well. Oops. Bit too much heat, but it'll be fine. There we go. And that's the rotary encoder done. So we have the green, black, and the brown. And on the other side we have the blue and the black. Okay, so now we've put all the wiring on the encoder and on the power distribution board and the amplifier board and connected the speaker to the amplifier board. And now it's time to put all of these wires and these wires and connect them to the actual board with the display. But before we do that, we need to the memory card in the back, and it should be formatted in FAT32 file format for it to work. So you just put it in here and slide it in. Make sure it's all the way in, like so. Okay, so it goes in one way. You see the spacing between the mounting holes are a bit different, so it can only go in one way. You need the USB connection to the cutout over here. Put it in like so. And these are 2x5 or 2x6 millimeter small screws that you mount it with. like so. It does not require any force at all. And try not to smudge it like I did, because then you'll have to clean it. Now it's time to solder the connections to the board. For the power connections, I'm gonna have some heat shrink just to make sure there is no short circuit there. And we'll start with the power. There we go. And then the ground. There we go. And we'll slide the heat shrink over like so. And then just hit them with a small blast of heat from the be careful not to heat up the 3D printed plastic too much, because that'll melt. So just a small blast of heat to make the shrink wrap, not the shrink wrap, the heat shrink contract. Actually, the next wire would be the rotary encoder blue wire. So the button wire, and we'll skip one pin and continue on the next one. So the pin between the rotary encoder blue wire and the power wire is unused. And now let's continue connecting the pins here. Oops, that didn't work at all. There we go. And then it's actually time for all the wires from the amplifier board. So these wires comes from the amplifier board. And they will be connected in the order of yellow, green, and then brown. So let's start with the yellow. I would pre-tin the other ones as well when we're already here and doing that. So we'll start with the yellow. And then the green. And then the brown one coming from the amplifier board. There we go. They're all there. And then there's just 2 more wires to connect. And that's the brown and the green one. And the brown one goes on pin number 2, if you're counting from the right in this orientation. It's not pin number 2 if you look into the charts, it's actually pin 18. And then we need to connect the green one. So it's the 5th pin. I think it's pin 30 or 23, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's this pin here. Like so. Oops, I moved it. Never move a solder joint when it's cooling down, because that'll make a bad connection. So I actually forgot about this one. That should have been connected to the ground. And so I'll have to fix that. Yeah. That'll have to do. put some heat on to the shrink wrap, or the heat shrink, sorry. There we go. So this is a lovely mess of cables, but this is how it should look actually. So the rotary encoder goes in the top, the screen, and then we have the power connector and the amplifier board, and we have the speaker as well. So it's time to mount it all inside the clock. So for that, I'll just rearrange some stuff and I'll see you soon. So now's the time to mount all of this stuff inside the clock. But before we do that, let's just power it up and see that it still works and the display is fine. And it seems okay. This would be a good time to connect it to your Wi-Fi and upload an MP3 and make sure that the rotary encoder works as well and you can enter the menu. But for now, we'll just mount this as it is. Okay, so let's put all this stuff inside the clock. And I like to start with the rotary encoder because that's the thing that goes the farthest in. It has to stick out through here, and usually it's easier to handle that without the display in place. So let's remove the nut, and then I like to hold it like this so you can see the hole that it needs to go through. And when it does, you can just hold it there and then push with your finger to get it through. And when it's through, use the nut. If I can get it to thread on the threads, it should. There it goes. And we'll just use a pair of pliers to fit the last. Doesn't have to be that tight because there's not that much mechanical force on it. And you can press it. And now is a good time to add the button on top. Yep. So now it's time for the display, and the display is a press fit. So just hold it like this with 2 fingers and try to follow the edge or yeah, it's a bit fiddly, but you'll know when you're there, and just push it in there like so. And there it is. Now I usually fit the speaker. The speaker is also press fit. I usually have the wire facing upwards. So if you can see the recess there, just follow, put it down, follow it all the way, and then give it a good press to fit it in. Like so. Or no, actually it should be even harder. Nope. Nope. I guess it's in there, as it should. Then let's go to the amplifier board, and it too should only be press fitted in there. So when it's in there, you press, and there's a nice click, and there it is. And lastly, get some wires out of the way here. let's see, it's the amplifier board wires. Put them up there for the moment, and then the last step is to put in the power board, and it goes, you line it up here like so, and then you press it in. Or you should be able to press it in, but it seems to be, oh, there it goes. There it is. Very tight fit. Yep. And that's it. This is the clock with all the components mounted. So let's do a final test. Add some power to it. See if it boots up. Yep, it does. Okay. Last step is to put on the lid, the bottom. I don't know if it's called lid when it's in the bottom, but line it up. There are actually some tabs here. You see there are tabs here. Line up with those holes in here. And press fit. And that's it. I hope you enjoy your new bedside clock, or whoever gets it. I had fun building it and designing it, and I'd be very happy if you write to me or comment my stuff, or even if you have the means to it, buy me a coffee. There's a link on the YouTube page. So enjoy, have a good time, bye bye.